Bart Winkler Show. Good to be here. I am doing the Thursday show in pieces today. The first portion of the show will be reaction to Aaron Rodgers. The second part of the show will be us talking about the bracket with Ryan Horvath. So we've got a lot of action for you today. You can also check out, if you're on the audio podcast, you can check these out in YouTube form. I'm coming on a few minutes before Rodgers. I think a few minutes. This guy's going to talk forever. I'm coming on a few minutes before Rodgers has wrapped things up because I'm so heated and furious at the last thing he just said. So big story here. The headline is he wants to play for the Jets, and he's not the one holding it up, which I do believe. There's compensation that they're trying to get done. We'll talk about all that. Thank you, Talk Beast. He says, McAfee viewers hearing you chip away from his count. That's right. I'm up to 16. Well, McAfee, and I'm one of them watching on my phone with my headphone in. He's up to 425,000. So I have hopefully taken away now 21 viewers from Pat McAfee. So the headline, okay, here's what I'm pissed about. Here's what I'm pissed about first. And I'll talk to Paul Emig about this. He's going to join us momentarily. Rodgers just said that there's so much bullshit and lies, and it's ridiculous. And here's what he was referencing. Diana Rossini had a tweet that said, Aaron Rodgers has provided the Jets with a wish list of free agents he would like them to target and acquire per sources. It includes Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, Mercedes Lewis, and Odell Beckham. Rodgers sees that report. He comes out and says that report is not true. It is not true. It is bogus. And what he's saying is, I never had a piece of paper with the words wish list on it with those names. That's what he's saying. And that's what he's saying is false. And he's right about that. But in the process, he's diminishing the whole report. So Diana used the words wish list. Okay. What he is doing is saying that, no, he never had a list of demands. But then he went on to say all these, like everything she said. He went on to say, did I say I want all those players and to look in some of my old teammates? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I did that. So I'm so sick of that. That's why I jumped on when I did. And I'm just setting things up here to get a little more smooth. All right. This will be the part I use for the show. Aaron Rodgers has spoken. Paul Emig is in a vehicle. Oh, God, no. What are you doing?
All right, sorry, go ahead.
Why am I getting you in a car? Where are you? You never leave your house.
What?
You never leave your house.
I just had to pick up lunch. That's it.
No.
I'll be back in a few minutes.
Oh. Well, do you have any initial thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know how you got my email address, but lose my email, nice try.
I just can't. I can't do it.
All right. Well, what's the lead here? I think the lead. There's a couple different directions you can go with this. For me, it's Jordan Love is the Green Bay Packers starting quarterback. End of discussion. Like, he is the Packers starting quarterback. There's no coming back from what's happened. Those are, paraphrasing what Rodgers said. Jordan Love's the Packers quarterback. So clearly, when you talk about Rodgers, but they did it, Bart. Like, it hasn't officially happened. There's not an official trade package. But the team made a distinct decision. Rodgers didn't make the decision. The team made the decision. Jordan Love's our guy. I think we should talk about that. Like, to lead this whole thing.
I just, that's not the lead though right now, is it?
If you're the national media, no. I think for Packers fans, like, if we can do the whole celebratory thing, if people want to do that another time, and we can do all the drama. Like, if you want to do the drama part of this, let's do the drama part of this. That was the best 35-minute soap opera I've ever seen in my life. It was so captivating. But for the Packers, they actually did it. Oh my goodness, they actually did it. They've moved on. Like, they defiantly moved on. And I mean, I guess depending on if they get a fourth round pick back, they screwed up. Like, if they get a fourth round pick, this is terrible. Well, maybe it's not terrible, but they totally misplayed their hand if that's what happened. But under the assumption that it's not some ridiculous trade package, the Packers actually pulled this off. Like they actually, Brian Gutekunst did the same thing Ted Thompson did, equally with the same lack of, maybe like good positive PR because it was not Thompson didn't handle it well. It would seem from the eyes of Aaron Rodgers that Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst didn't handle this well. But so there's the drama angle of all this and the behind the scenes and the, hey, let me sit here and tell you a story for 15 minutes. But it was great entertainment. But the Packers have a new quarterback. Oh, my goodness, the Packers have a new quarterback.
Paul, I don't know that they do yet.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
He's still a Packer.
He's a Packer in contract. He said in no uncertain terms, it's not like Brian Gutekunst can call him and say, hey, we didn't get the offer from the Jets we wanted. Would you like to come back? He said that they're past that. This is over. Like, he's a Green Bay Packer in contract only. He is not the great. So, Bart, to your point, you said this 2 or 3 weeks ago. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, it's to be the backup. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, it's to be the backup. The team has moved on to Jordan Love. That's an open and shut case.
Yeah, that's a good point. If they don't work out a trade, I think the main story for me at this point is, and I'll throw the StreamYard up here so you guys can join. I think the main story for me is Rodgers wants to leave. The Jets want Rodgers. The Packers want Rodgers to leave. Who has the leverage? Who is going to be the one to make it happen? Because each party right now thinks they are in control or that they have more leverage than the other person. The Packers think they have leverage because they have the guy. And the Jets, there's nobody left. Jacoby Brissett is the next best option that's left. Baker's gone. Darnold's gone. Jimmy's gone. All these Derek Carr's gone, who they should have signed, if you ask me. They're all gone. So the Packers, they think they have the leverage because they've got the guy. The Jets think they have the leverage because Rodgers just went on national TV or whatever you want to call it and say, I don't want to play for this team anymore. Get me out of there. And the Jets are like, well, the guy wants to leave. So what are you going to do with him? And then Rodgers thinks he has leverage because he thinks that the world spins based on where he is at the current time on planet Earth, and the sun sets when he chooses and it rises on his wishes. So everyone thinks they have leverage, and I'm not sure who does. Are you at home?
Yeah, I'm here.
Get into your basement.
All right, give me a minute.
Yeah, join me. All right, so that's where I think I'm at, is that everyone thinks they have leverage, and nobody's got leverage. Somebody's got to have leverage. So, does someone have leverage, or is someone going to be the first one to be like, fine, just end this. We want a second, we'll take a fourth, just end it. Or you guys want a second, we only want to give you a fourth, here's a third, let's just end this. I did not think today on McAfee that we were going to get an announcement that Aaron Rodgers' trade was official. I did not think we were going to get that. I think what we may have gotten is to make the joke that everybody was making after the darkness retreat. I think we may have gotten 6 more weeks of winter. I think that may be what has happened, because there does not seem to be any end in sight to what is going on. Ryan says, guys, this is not over. Nick says he absolutely doesn't want to play anymore, but claims he does now only because the Packers decided they wanted to move on. They changed their mind. It happens. He nearly cried. That's when my bullshit meter hit sky high. When Rodgers goes in to the darkness retreat, in this retreat, he says, I'm 90% retiring, gets out, checks his phone, realizes the Packers want to move on, and all of a sudden, you're telling me, I'm going to tweet this out. You're telling me Rodgers was in there for 4 days. What was the darkness retreat for? You're telling me. Spark Guy's joining. Talk while I tweet this out.
Well, I do think it's over. I think the NFL, Goodell, they've shown they did that with Favre, didn't they? Like about a weekend, if this continues. continues to negotiate back and forth, they'll step in and make the deal be close. So I think it's over from that regard, but just fascinating the things the guy gets worked up about. Like this whole thing that he just slipped about the whole, he didn't ask for players. Like one thing that keeps rising into my mind, like, does he have like CTE? And I don't make that lightly. Like everybody had no problem understanding that Antonio Brown has some serious issues. And people have speculated as to what that's about, but he's been not only wildly erratic, but bizarre. And like the things that Rodgers gets fixated on, I just find bizarre. Like that's such a bizarre thing that you're forcing people to try to admit didn't happen. Like he's going to have all of his guys there and then say that it wasn't him that pushed the issue. I don't know, but I don't think it ends.
He didn't physically write on a piece of paper. I mean, they were joking about fonts. Rodgers is protesting that he didn't write a wish list. Nobody thinks you wrote wish list, sent it to one Jets way. Nobody thinks that. We think that there were guys that you would like to have come, and because Diana said wish list, it's bullshit. So if you're a reporter, you have to put it exactly, because then he'll say it's bullshit. He is such a con man, and he is a con man to himself. I don't believe what he says because he doesn't believe what he says. Thank you for letting me put my tweet out. I said, you're telling me Rodgers spent 4 days in a darkness retreat, was 90% ready to retire, checked his phone for 3 minutes and wanted to play again? What was the point of the retreat? All he had to do is check his phone and he wants to play. Why go in for 4 days then? It's bullshit.
He's been manipulating it from day one, but I still think the overarching thing I always think when he does that with the media though is he is constantly, his main goal is actually to vilify and also delegitimize the media. And the only time people do that is when there's something bigger. And I still think 20 years from now, it's all going to make a lot more sense because there's something huge that when it comes out, he wants there to be doubt about. So that's just my bigger opinion of it. I think he's a narcissist. He's got problems, but I also don't think it's over. Like I think within a week, he will be a Jet. If they really go back and forth, Goodell will do just what he did with the Favre situation. He'll step in, he'll get the deal closed. So Goodell's going to close the deal the next week. But if in some way Packer fans think that it's like off the hook now, like he's going to continue. Like think about how it felt with Favre. I know that he was eventually in the Vikings, but like he is a part of the narrative here till the day he retires. And he is going to continue to foster that. It's going to be so obnoxious. It's so annoying, but it's not over.
To ignore.
No.
I mean, they'll do what they did with Devontae. Like, here's Rodgers' stats through a quarter and a half, and here's Love's. You know, if you're watching a Packer game, Rodgers will come up. But as a Packer fan, I don't need to watch McAfee every week anymore.
Well, that was probably the worst part about it.
I hate myself.
Oh, it's awful. So what do you think? I think now is the time, though, before even anything else happens. What's right at this moment? Prediction for the Packers and prediction for the Jets. I can start. My prediction for the Packers would be, I think that they'll be a playoff team. They'll come out of this and they'll be able to restructure some things and they'll be able to do some things that they'll make the playoffs. Beyond that, I don't know how far in the playoffs, but I think they'll be a playoff team. And man, I got to go two-prong. Like either Rodgers makes a Super Bowl and this is like his vengeance season, or like, I'm not joking, it's like week 6 and he's doing sit-ups in the driveway like T.O., or he's running off the field with the shirt off because he's seriously mentally unstable. Like my prediction would be it's one of those, it's not 10-7 or 11-6 and they're a decent team. Like they're either gangbusters awesome, the Jets, or he's like committed by November.
I mean, I don't want to go that far, but I get the point you're making. I don't think the Jets win the Super Bowl. I'm going to bet Horvath $500 that the Packers have a better record than the Jets and feel very confident in that pick. I think once things get bad, you know, they might win their first 3 games. Once things get bad, it's going to get bad. And he's going to go crying to Pat and AJ and Boston Connor and Ty and all these guys that are riding the coattails just like Tim Shea rides me.
Final thing, and then I'll let you go. Bart, I think the most important thing about today by far is that the most important thing is you've largely been right, Bart. You've largely been right over the last couple of years about how this would all play out. Like the gist, the vibe, you've largely been right. So you should hang your hat on that.
Well, I'm right about a lot of this stuff. It's just sometimes it takes people time to see it.
We all
Or they
see
don't
it.
want to admit it. So
We all
thank
see
you.
it today. God bless, Bart.
Thanks, Bart guy. God bless America. Paul Emig in his basement. What'd you pick up? Pizza for lunch?
Wings.
Oh, wings from that spot you like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was Spark Guy?
Yeah, that was Spark guy.
Oh, cool.
Oh, did you never interact with him?
I don't think not like where I see is what he looks like.
Oh, okay. So what I'm going to do here is to kind of refresh. I'm going to say the things I tweeted because I felt like if I tweeted it, I must have felt like it was important. Right? Well, and your point about the headline being Jordan loves the Packers quarterback, that's the gold. That's the gold, but we got to dig for the gold.
Okay. All right.
That's the gold. That's what's going to sustain us.
That's what matters for the Packers. That's
yes, but we got to sift through this. So here's some things that I said. First of all, Danny Parkins said there are over 200,000 people watching a live stream of Pat McAfee show. Rodgers hasn't even come on yet. I said, damn, I was feeling pretty good for getting 65 after Bucks Suns. I said Rodgers would be great at giving a book report after only reading the back cover.
Yeah, what was what was that about?
The guy for 20 minutes takes an hour to say one thing.
Sure.
Well,
yes.
The thing about Aaron Rodgers, if you could read about Moby Dick, please. Moby Dick. To wonder about Moby Dick, you have to first think about who was Moby Dick. You have to go all the way back to not just the beginning of Moby Dick's time, but the beginning of, this whales versus humans, the sea versus land. You have to start to think about where did those two things become separate? At one point, there was this thing called Pangea, where it was one land and the rest of the water, the sea. But eventually, as the lands broke up, water started to interact more with different lands. Meaning, you know what I'm saying?
He likes to go into the backstory. Yep.
All right, so I'm right about that. Ian Rappaport says Rodgers says he went into the darkness thinking he was 90% going to retire.
Yep.
But it was clear to me at that point, while the Packers were saying the right thing in public, they were going to move on. I said it's easy for Rodgers to lie to us when he's constantly lying to himself. A tweet I'm very happy with is, you're telling me Rodgers spent 4 days in a darkness retreat, was 90% ready to retire, checked his phone for 3 minutes, and was like, all right, I'm ready to play?
That was very strange.
So what's the point of the retreat?
Not clear, because then
tell me the world had to learn about your two well done shits for nothing.
Yeah, the AJ Hawk, shout out, asked a really good question, and he said, "Well, okay, so after you get out of the darkness retreat, and it was different. The Packers, hey, how was the darkness retreat? We'd love to have you come back. Would you have gone back?" And Rodgers was like, not necessarily."
Yeah.
So that that was the most confusing part of Rodgers' narrative that he's created for himself is, well, wait, I thought the problem was that they didn't want you, or that you suspected that they might not want you, because he kept saying, like, essentially it was the what he didn't say the vibe, but it was the impression I kept getting. It just kind of kept feeling that way. It's, I think, how Rodgers phrased it. But then to AJ Hawk's question, but what if they called you post darkness retreat and said, "Hey, let's go. Let's run it back." What would you have come back then? Well, not necessarily. What? That does not. Those dots do not connect.
Real quick, do you like my background on YouTube? I'm back to the place where I originally started.
That's your real background.
Yeah, this is my house. This is my basement.
Yeah, I like it. It's
Bradley Center picture someone drew for me.
Someone drew that?
I got this from my wife, and then the Packers have not won a Super Bowl since. I stole that Bucks thing. So I think Rodgers wants to. I think he kind of thinks that every player, once they give a certain amount, should be able to walk out on their terms.
He 100% thinks. There's no question. Like, to me, that is an incredibly important part of this. He just kind of thinks, I obtained tenure, right?
Yeah. Or if the team is ready to move on, they have to do it in such a way where, I mean, all these guys he mentions, like Clay Matthews phone call and Jordy Nelson, whatever, they all come back. They all choose to be retired as a Packer.
Yeah.
They all cherish their time there. Rarely is somebody even Greg Jennings is coming back, to be inducted.
I guess, yeah.
Nobody and that doesn't mean the Packers
Ryan Longwell, after all his comments post-Packers career and all that stuff, yeah.
That doesn't mean the Packers should just shit on everybody on their way out the door, but the Packers also, they do move on from guys before they should. They're trying to keep a sustainable business here.
That's the point, Aaron. To get rid of a guy a year too soon rather than a year too late. They did it with you, and now the team isn't going to get nearly the trade compensation that they would have a year ago because they didn't do the thing that they knew they should have done.
So they're doing it for you, and now they did the thing, but you're mad that they didn't do it longer.
Right.
And so you were 90% going to retire, and now you're coming back?
We can be clear on a couple things. Rodgers 100% believes that he earned tenure, and that many other players that he mentioned did the same thing, that they've been here long enough. They've contributed to a culture and to wins and to playoff appearances and to NFC North championships. They should be able to leave on their own terms. He absolutely thinks that. And, to be fair, Bart, what day was that? Was that in August when the whole Odyssey thing happened? I mean, you probably would have rather it gone down differently or not happened at all. Or maybe you found your new life here and it's even better. But needless to say, there's probably better ways to do that than what happened. But okay, it's over and you're back working there and everything's fine and people are cool.
Well, it's
and
part of the business.
It's just kind of right. The point.
I've always understood in radio that there are things beyond your control.
Right.
I have always understood that. And my whole crusade against those in Milwaukee radio currently is that they don't think that.
Right.
Now, you do need a certain level of talent, I think, to get to that position, but don't take it for granted. The radio business can change on a dime. You could have your biggest sponsor hypothetically die. And that's a real hypothetical. And then suddenly it's gone. Our rating meters are so messed up where you could have a guy that is the meter listens to 24 hours a day, dies. Suddenly you go from third in the market to ninth. Because, you could have corporate overlords merging stations or saying, well, we got these stations in Milwaukee. We'd like to center it. And it doesn't matter what you do on a daily basis. I understand the business.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. That's why I wasn't at an initial shock. That's why I never went guns blazing at Odyssey. I had no reason to. I understand the business that I'm in. Every day I go into the radio station, I understand it could be my last day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I get it because that's kind of business I'm in. Not everyone's in that kind of business. Rodgers has to know he's in that kind of business.
Rodgers is in that kind of business and does not
he's seen it so much, and he thinks he's going to change the world. He thinks that Jordy Nelson should get a red carpet treatment and all this stuff. And then right before the Packers are going to cut him, they're going to be like, all right, Jordy, we're going to release you if that's what you want. Would you rather play? And so I don't know what they want. The Packers said, oh, you could play here, but it's got to be cheap. And Jordy was insulted by that. So he just thinks that once you play for a certain amount of time, you should be able to play there forever.
Yep.
And that's not how it goes. He's seen Peyton Manning get exiled from Indy. He's seen Tom Brady move on. He has seen his whole life. All these guys that play. And then to the Packers.
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. To the Packers' point of view, why? Why do I need to go out of my way to have you rot here at the end of your career when all you guys end up doing when we cut you is go to the Bears, Vikings, or Lions to get back at us? That at some point, that's a you thing, not a Packer thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stand for the Packers there. It's everyone we cut is so pissed that we cut them. I don't know. So I've said a lot. I understand that. I'll get back to my tweets in a moment.
Yeah, that is what Rodgers clearly believes. It's part of what he said. Oh, it's ironic that 2 years ago this was the crusade I set out on, and now I'm the guy, being booted out the door unceremoniously. And I know he said there's no bad guys in any of this, and he said I'm not a victim here. There's no victim here. All these other things, and I think he could have. not knowing all the details, he could have probably said some harsh things about Mark Murphy. He kind of like hinted at it. I don't know if you caught that, like his little things, like he said, and some of the things they said behind the door, and some things they said publicly. He's clearly mentioning what Mark Murphy said during the girls' state basketball championship.
Well, Murphy's an idiot.
Well, okay, so let's just talk about that for a second. What Rodgers said at the start of the McAfee interview was, "Today's not decision day. Decision day was the past few days." Oh boy, he's got his Rodgers. What is it? Not a bobblehead. This is an action figure.
This is one of those. I
doesn't
don't know if you've ever
even-
seen them. I don't know if you've ever seen those movies where the doll comes to life and terrorizes the family. That's what this is. Aaron Rodgers.
It doesn't even look like him, by the way.
Look at the side profile. Look at his dead eyes.
Yeah, does not look like him.
Draw some tears on there.
But let me just say this about Murphy. So Roger said the decision has happened a few days ago. I have to wonder if Mark Murphy and internally, like the front office, was like getting this sense that Rodgers is going to he's going to do something. He's going to ask something. The Packers have to control the narrative. How do we do that? Like, how do we gently, like, I used the analogy with you, I think last week, and some other friends in a text message about like, it's the end of Harry and the Hendersons. They're trying to like get him back in the woods. They're trying to get him out of the house. They're trying to get rid of this guy. And he's like, no. So you finally have to say, get out of here. We don't want you anymore. Which, by the way, is like the verbatim quote of the end of Harry and the Hendersons. And I wonder, it's fair to wonder if that's what Mark Murphy was doing, is he was sensing Rodgers was going to go do a public appearance. He was going to go on McAfee. He was going to, whatever it would be. And he was going to essentially say, I want to come back. And once he says that, if Rodgers would have gone on McAfee a week ago prior to Mark Murphy.
Oh, good point.
Then the narrative has been set. Now Rodgers said there's no bad guy here. At least
that's what I always say. Rodgers always gets on that show.
So guess who set the narrative this time?
Oh, the Packers.
Mark Murphy did. And I really wanted to emphasize that.
Wow, brilliant.
Thank you very much. And that's why I wondered, like, at first I thought, man, Mark Murphy needs PR training. Like he needs to know, like, but I only said this at a girls' basketball game. Bro, like, it's 2023. Like, everything is everywhere. And then I thought, wait a minute. Forget evil Mark Murphy. This is evil genius Mark Murphy. He said, I'm grabbing this narrative and I'm going to like hide behind the fact that, it was just a girls' basketball tournament. This wasn't like a national media interview. And he knew that it was exactly just that because it was going to go viral. And he said, I've got to, how do I nudge? Get out of here. Go back to where go. And
simply brilliant. Brilliant take. Here, I'm very proud of myself. I think I'm crushing takes. I really do. That is magnifico.
Thank you, sir. I feel really good.
Elevator music says, have this guy on instead of Tim. He knows what he's talking about. Let's not take shots at poor Tim Shea. But Paul Emming is a frequent contributor to the program. He's made the website, bartwinkler.com. You can check that out thanks to my friends at Sun and Interactive. Okay, a couple other of my tweets that I just wanted to say here. And this is what I was talking about to start before you got on. Claxton says, okay, man, you give it up. You hate him. We get it. So I don't hate him. It's just he's getting dumped. And instead of accepting it, the whole world is to watch the breakup.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
I'll talk about leverage in a minute. This is what I said. So he's so proud that he told Adam Schefter, lose my number. What a fucking dork.
I love that. I'm not going to lie. I loved that. And the fact that it was actually, if you saw Schefter's tweet, it's exactly what Rodgers responded with, which was, lose my number, nice try. Like, that's awesome. That he told the number one news gatherer in the NFL to lose my number. That's awesome.
So, Diana Rossini, tweets the other day.
This is what you're about to do is a very, very fair criticism and gripe. So go ahead. I'm with you on where I know you're going with this.
Aaron Rodgers has provided the Jets with a wish list of free agents he would like them to target and acquire. Per sources, it includes Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, Mercedes Lewis, Odell Beckham Jr. So Rodgers gets out there and he says some of the stuff that you're seeing is lies. Some of it's true. Some of it's in between. The way that Rodgers, there's nothing you can say that Rodgers won't refute because he will find the language in which you say it.
Yep.
And refute that. And then suddenly you're down a rabbit hole.
Yep.
And I realize now my friends, specifically Bodie, who I oft reference, he does this very well. He's a pro at it. So Rodgers is saying, I never made a wish list. The gist of the tweet, Aaron, is that you told the Jets, hey, there's some of these guys that if I'm coming, I'd like with me.
Yeah.
That's the gist of the tweet. But Diana chose the words wish list.
Yeah.
So he's either so dumb or so whatever, literal, that he thinks they're reporting that I wrote a wish. I said wish list names, sent it off. That's bullshit. How dare they? And this is something that has happened a lot in politics. They all do it. Some much more than others. But they all do it where they attack the media, these writers, for the way that it got framed, which we're a lot of what we're arguing is semantics.
You can add this to the list of folks, like this is another like, well, I didn't write a wish list. I said
folks. I said immunized. I don't care that he didn't get the COVID shot. I might have at the time because I wanted him to play, but I don't care like if that's what he chose not to do. I don't like that he used words to dupe everybody. You have to be very literal with Rodgers.
Yeah.
If you're even if he said even if Diana would have said, Rodgers phoned the Jets. I didn't phone the Jets.
Yeah, right.
I texted the Jets.
So so let's reiterate that. The accurate tweet from, as Diana Rossini would have put it, Rodgers would not have refuted, or maybe he would have found another way to refute it. Aaron Rodgers told the Jets he likes the following players because that's accurate. Oh, but that's not a wish list. So, whatever. Because he's like, I think he asked him, what Rodgers went down that hole of asking himself questions, which was the old Brett Favre thing. Did they ask about some of the players I've played with and if I liked playing with them? They did. But that's not a wish list. That's just telling them some players I like. And I liked some of the spin that came out last night. I think it was Rap Sheet and the NFL crew who was like, essentially, the Jets would have signed Alan Lazard to this contract either way. I mean, just the spin that you're willing to buy Ian Rappaport, come on, stop it. The Jets did not do this completely outside of whoever the quarterback was going to be. They wanted Alan Lazard for 4 years and $44 million. Nonsense. Here's the thing. We talk a lot about NBA and player empowerment. Rodgers is just I can outdo you. Kevin Durant, you think you know what player empowerment is? Watch this. He's taking it to a whole other level. He's getting his friends paid, man. And again, Alan Lazard's a good player. It's not dumping at Alan Lazard, but don't tell me oh yeah, the Jets would have done that regardless of who they think their QB is going to be. That's nonsense. They have a good wide receiver core. Now Rodgers is no, I need Lazard and Cobb, and then I need Mercedes, and but it's not a wish list. Let me be very clear. It's not a wish list. It's just what is it? What would be the right? It's not a wish list. It's a conversation.
He'll say anything. She could say Rodgers request the Jets.
I didn't request it.
I didn't request anything. I'm not pushing my agenda. Right. I asked if they would look in. He doesn't understand what synonyms are.
So Bart, I gotta go in a couple of minutes. I do want to spend a couple with you before you go back to some of the Rodgers stuff. I want to talk. The Green Bay Packers, for the first time since 2008, have a brand new starting quarterback. This is a huge deal. This is a huge, so again, the national story, it's always going to be, Rodgers to the Jets, Rodgers to the Jets. I get that. Jordan Love showed enough in his third year to make the Packers be confident enough to make this move. Brian Gutekunst.
And that's why Rodgers didn't sit out to end the season.
It's a fair thought. We don't know that to be true or not. But yeah, if Rodgers wanted to go out on his terms and he was thinking, hey, because he kept saying Jordan's a great kid. He's going to do great. He looked great in his third year in his development and blah, blah, blah. Like maybe there's something to that. But all in all, dude, you got what you wanted. Many Packers fans got what they wanted. The team did not let Rodgers dictate the next step. Can we talk about that? Brian Gutekunst and Mark Murphy in the front office made the decision. Aaron Rodgers didn't make the decision. The Packers front office actually took control of their franchise for the first time, probably since Brian Gutekunst got the job in the first place, and made the move.
I will talk about that some more. There's just a few comments I want to read before you leave. So let me read them. Jay Freely says, when you picture the media, this is what I pictured, LOL. A bunch of loser nobodies sitting in their basement with hardly anyone listening. Ha, 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 ha. Jay Freely, what you don't know is that we do this of a labor of love. I'm actually the son of an oil tycoon. There's Winkler oil drilling way in the heart of Texas. And then Paul's actually second in line to be the Prince of Liechtenstein. So we don't need this. We just do it for fun. Single male in Milwaukee says, people who are determined to hate Rodgers will never believe what he says. Let's just move on. Everything that comes out of your mouth is biased at hell.
Wait, hold on.
I don't hate Rodgers.
Well, I would add, I do believe what he says.
I believe he believes what he says.
Okay.
I'm being Rodgers' translator here because I'm right.
Right, but what did he say today that you don't believe?
Or that he was 90% going to retire.
Yeah, that's probably that might be some revisionist.
He's convincing himself that after the fact.
I think fair.
He went in not knowing, convincing himself after the fact because now that'll be like a way to see Packers. You could have got rid of me, but then you didn't want to.
I really do think it's funny. It's funny. I do think as the book gets written on this interview that happened today with McAfee, that it was AJ Hawk who found the nugget that uncorked the whole narrative for Rodgers, which was, but if the Packers called you after the retreat and said, we love you, come on back, would you have gone back? Well, not necessarily. So that unravels the whole thing. So, by the way, AJ Hawk, who was playing when I was covering the team on a full-time basis, did not like doing interviews. He would only do them as his minimal requirements. The fact that but he was very good when he did talk, but he only wanted to do it as absolutely required by his contract. The fact that he asked such a great question and kind of trapped Rodgers in his own narrative spin, shout out AJ Hawk, man.
Another comment on Twitter says, a lot of energy spent on hating someone. Wink, you are better than that. No, I'm not. Also, if I don't like being called Bert, I do not like being called Wink. I am not Wink. Don't call me that. I actually hate it more than I hate Bert.
Well, or Bort?
Bort's fine because it's funny.
Because it's a promo code?
Bert, yeah. Bert is like, all right. Wink is atrocious.
I mean, you are the person who decided you should be at Winks Thinks. But
Winks is good. Winks Thinks. Winkler. Bart.
Bort.
Any of those.
Okay.
I'm not Bartholomew. You can call me that if you're being cute, I guess. I'm not Bert. I'm not Wink. I am not Wink. Okay? I understand by saying this, it will bring on more.
Oh, for sure.
But I want to be clear. All right. You want to leave me?
I don't want to leave you. I have to leave you.
Oh.
I will listen to the rest of the show later. Who's coming on? Anyone going to join you, or are you just going to freestyle like you're on CBS Sports Radio?
I might be on a little bit more, but I think we've covered most of it.
Talk more about Jordan Love. The Rodgers stuff, all you wanted was for this to be over. It's over, bro. It's over. This is capitalize on this moment.
It's not over though.
This is a you problem. This is.
Oh, I am so thirsty. I'm in the desert. I'm 90% sure that I'm 90%. I'm always gonna say 90% sure no when I'm not sure.
When you're like 50-50.
I'm 90% sure that lake up there is a mirage.
Bud, if you dwell the rest of this show on the drama of Rodgers and not on the fact that the Packers did the thing you didn't think they would do.
I love your Murphy take.
Thank you. Well, then let's just play on that more because you're not liking that. I'm trying to kick you over to the Jordan Love conversation. You want more Rodgers drama. You're not ready to quite get off the ride. You can be off. You have been cleared from the ride. The ride is over.
And this is where I'll go. And I'll throw the StreamYard back up if anybody wants to, or the comments just coming in are good. But I'm going to talk about the leverage and the compensation for a little bit.
That'll be an interesting topic. I'm interested to listen to it. All right.
All right, thanks, Paul.
All right, bye.
So there are three, Paul Emick, everyone. Always a pleasure. There are three parties here, and we're trying to figure out who has the leverage. Does Aaron Rodgers have the leverage? Do the Jets have the leverage? Do the Packers have the leverage? I had tweeted earlier that I think Rodgers coming out and saying, I want to play for the Jets kills the Packers' leverage. But does it enhance it? I think I'm trying to talk through it. I don't know. I don't know if anyone has the leverage. It might be a case where they're all looking at each other like the Spider-Man meme and thinking who's going to blink first. Because someone's going to have to cave. Rodgers will end up being a New York Jet in due time, right? The Packers, I think the Packers are willing to make the trade, just make the trade. And I think they, as Pat McAfee said, and pup passion here, do the Jets need the contract? Do the Packers need the contract off the books? There'd be some dead cap money, but then eventually they'd get out of it. So, yeah, it'd be great. And I think the Jets are only taking $15 million on in cap. Where the Packers are at, I truly think the Packers just want to move on, go to Jordan Love, get the cap off the books, and that is a win. They're trading Rodgers away for the ability to start their guy and to free up some cap money. That's the trade. But somebody else wants him, and you've seen all these other deals go down for first and second round picks and multiple first. Matt Stafford going for multiple first. Carson Wentz going for a first. So then the Packers almost have to do that to live up to expectations. I think if they could just make the trade and nobody knew about it. A lot of you guys are saying the Packers have all the leverage. I would like to give me some more on that. Give me some more as to why you think the Packers have all the leverage. I think the Jets have the leverage in the sense that nobody else wants him. Nobody else wants Rodgers. However, the Packers may have more leverage because nobody else wants. There's nobody else out there. The Jets need Rodgers. I'm just reading some comments here. They're bidding against themselves. There's no other option for them unless they go with Lamar Jackson. And they've hyped up all their guys, and they've hyped up their fan base. And so it's going to be very disappointing if they just end up with all due, like Jacoby Brissett. So we know what everybody wants. This is so weird. We know what everybody wants. Rodgers wants to be a Jet. The Jets want Rodgers. The Packers want Rodgers off of their team. So what do you agree with on compensation? The Packers need to get out of the salary. They've got their quarterback already. They don't need a quarterback in return. Some of the leverage, yes, passion. It might depend on the contract. and how much of that the Jets are going to take on in the Packers. So that's what's got to get worked out here. Clearly, they haven't agreed to it. At some point, they're going to have to. Spark Guy earlier just thinks that Goodell's going to step in and finalize this thing. I mean, you can't drag it out forever. But we do at least know that the Packers are ready to move on from Rodgers and that Rodgers is ready to move on to the Jets, whether he likes it or not. So we at least know that. Ultimately, who needs this to happen quicker is another thing. If the Packers want picks before the draft for Rodgers, they're going to have to make the trade sooner. If they are not banking on 2024 being that successful of a year, then, or 2023 rather, then they can just wait later and use picks for next year. Okay? If the Jets know that there's not going to be a situation where Rodgers probably won't come to camp, that's why he wants all his friends, then the Jets, what's the leverage for the Jets? The Jets have a window with their defense. They don't have a quarterback. The Packers have two of them. Jets have been a terrible team. They need him. The Packers very well could go in with Rodgers as the backup quarterback. I think that's a low likelihood of a scenario, but we're at the point where it is possible. Rodgers said he was 90% retiring going into the dark, killed any leverage we have in terms of uncertainty and likelihood of retirement next year. I thought that when he went on and said that, he was killing the leverage. But now I'm not so sure. What if the Jets and Packers can't make it work? Does Rodgers come back and ride the bench or retire? The Packers are ready to move on. And maybe it's a point. Here's a good one from Robert. Robert says, I think the Packers are prepared to have Rodgers sit next year if they can't work out a trade. Maybe that happens. Maybe Rodgers doesn't get traded. The Packers just keep his salary on the books and play without him, and he doesn't get traded. At least have to make it seem like that's something they're willing to do. They have to make it seem that way. So I guess we'll find out. And again, if Zach Wilson was any good, none of this would have ever happened. So Rodgers wants to be a Jet. The Jets want Rodgers. The Packers do not want Rodgers on their team. What is the solution? We don't know. We'll find that out. Paul's right. We should be talking a lot more. The Packers, they're ready to move on to Jordan Love. That's something we'll talk about as the weeks come on. But it's going to be very interesting. So lots to react to. As far as this YouTube, I'm going to wrap up this one. I've got another video posting around 3 o'clock Central. Myself and Ryan Horvat fill out our brackets. I'll be on CBS 58 this afternoon again in the 4 o'clock hour and some other radio hits throughout the night as well. So that's where I'm at this point. And new podcast dropping tomorrow with the bulk of this in it. Thank you, and we will talk to you again. What a mess.